Okay, but really, how many times have you checked your phone today? Honestly, between work and, well, everything else these days, it's like our brains never get a break.
It's true. Our brains are constantly on.
Exactly. And that's actually why we're doing this deep dive into this interview you shared, the one with Dr. Aditi Naka, the stress expert.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
She makes some really interesting points, like, did you know that 72% of us are dealing with stress?
Wow, 72%. That's a lot. Although, honestly, I'm not surprised.
Me neither. And it seems like it's more than just, I need a nap, exhaustion.
Right. It's this constant feeling of being on, even when you're not at work. Like you can never truly disconnect. Scrolling through work emails at 10 p.m., anyone.
Ugh, yes, all the time. So tell me more about this Dr. Naka. I'm fascinated that she was a medical resident who actually experienced burnout firsthand.
Right. Talk about turning a struggle into a strength. She couldn't find the help she needed, so she dove into the science of stress and became an expert herself.
I love that. Okay, so scientifically speaking, what's actually happening in our brains when we're stressed?
So think about it this way. Our ancestors are face-to-face with a tiger. That's acute stress. Your body kicks into fight or flight mode.
Right, it's a survival mechanism.
Exactly. You either deal with the tiger or run like crazy. Either way, the stress hormones subside pretty quickly and your body goes back to normal.
But today, we're dealing with metaphorical tigers, those never-ending to-do lists and work emails.
And social media, let's not forget about those notifications.
Oh, don't even get me started on social media. But you're right, it's this constant low-level stress that never really goes away.
Exactly. And our poor bodies are like, hello, anyone listening? It's like those canaries miners used to take underground to warn them of danger.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. If the canary died, it meant there were dangerous gases in the air. Our bodies have their own canaries, headaches, trouble sleeping, getting sick all the time. These are signs your system's overloaded.
Okay, that makes so much sense. So we need to learn what our personal stress signals are, those early warning signs before things escalate.
Exactly. It's about listening to your body, figuring out your own personal stress song, if you will.
I like that, our stress song. Okay, so we've got all this low-level chronic stress going on, and then we layer on top of that all the, how did Dr. Naka put it, the stress hacks of modern life.
Yes. She says the average person checks their phone over 2,600 times a day.
How? 2,600? That's insane.
Right. It's like we're addicted to our devices.
Yeah.
And it's creating this popcorn brain phenomenon.
Okay, popcorn brain. Tell me more about that because it sounds kind of fun, but also a little chaotic.
It's both. Imagine your brain is like a pan of popcorn kernels on the stove. Each notification, each scroll through social media is like a burst of heat, making a kernel pop randomly.
So instead of thoughtful, focused thinking, we're just reacting to whatever pops up.
Yes. Our brains crave that novelty, but leaves us feeling scattered and anxious, unable to focus.
It's like we're both stimulated and completely drained at the same time. We're constantly on, but not really present.
And here's the crazy thing. Even though we're more digitally connected than ever, we're lonelier. Did you know that 330 million people go 2 weeks without having a single conversation with another person?
Wait, 2 weeks? That's heartbreaking. But also, it makes you think. We think we're connecting online, but it's not the same as real human interaction.
It's not even close. And all of this digital stimulation just plays into that hustle culture mentality. Always on, always striving, never truly present.
It's exhausting. So how do we break free from this cycle? Dr. Naka mentioned some practical techniques for managing stress, right?
She does. And the best part is she's realistic. She talks about the rule of 2. Basically, our brains can only handle 2 new habits at once.
Okay, I can get behind that. So many times I get overwhelmed just thinking about all the things I should be doing to manage stress.
Right. It's too much. But 2 small changes. That feels doable.
Absolutely. It's about making those small changes sustainable so they actually stick. What else does she recommend? 2 small changes, I like that. It's not about doing all the things, it's about finding what works for you and making it stick.
Exactly. And it's about being kind to yourself along the way. We're all just figuring this out as we go.
So true. Okay, so back to Dr. Naka's stress reduction techniques. You mentioned she had some surprisingly simple ones.
She does. You're going to laugh because it's something you do every single day, multiple times a day, without even thinking about it.
Okay, now you got me intrigued. What is this magical stress-busting technique?
Your breath.
Wait, seriously, my breath. I mean, I'm breathing right now, and I don't exactly feel zen.
I hear you. But here's the thing. When we're stressed, our breathing changes. It becomes shallow and rapid.
Oh, yeah, like when you're about to give a presentation or something, your heart's racing and you can barely catch your breath.
Exactly. That's your sympathetic nervous system kicking into that fight or flight mode we talked about earlier.
Right, the whole tiger thing.
Exactly. But we can actually hack that system by consciously changing our breath.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's called diaphragmatic breathing. It's that deep belly breathing we did as babies.
Okay, I think I remember my mom telling me to breathe into my belly when I was little.
There you go. It's like a magic button for your nervous system. When you breathe deeply into your belly, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the rest and digest response.
So we're basically telling our bodies it's safe to chill out, even when our minds are racing.
Exactly. And you can do this anytime, anywhere. Feeling overwhelmed at work, take 5 deep breaths. Stuck in traffic. Deep breaths.
I'm going to try it. Okay, what about those most goals we talked about earlier? How do those fit into the stress management picture?
Most goals are all about taking back control, even when life feels chaotic. Remember, it's motivating, objective, small, and timely.
Right, so instead of saying, I need to exercise more, which honestly feels overwhelming just thinking about it, it's about breaking it down into something specific and achievable.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to walk for 15 minutes 3 times this week. See the difference?
It's way less intimidating. It's about setting yourself up for success, not failure.
Exactly. And speaking of success, you know what else can be incredibly therapeutic when it comes to managing stress? Writing.
Oh, yeah, like journaling. I've tried that, but sometimes it feels like I'm just rehashing all my problems and anxieties.
I get it. But this is different. It's called therapeutic writing. Dr. Naka recommends taking just 20 minutes for 4 days to write about a specific stressful event. And it's not about being a novelist. Just get those thoughts and feelings, OUT.
So, no pressure to produce a Pulitzer Prize-winning memoir.
None whatsoever. Just brain dump onto paper. And the research on this is amazing. It can actually reduce stress hormones and boost your immune system. You're literally writing yourself into better health.
Okay, I'm definitely adding that to my list of things to try. I love that it's both practical and supported by science.
And you know what else is surprisingly impactful? What you eat.
Wait, are you saying a cookie can cure my stress?
Yeah.
Because I'm here for that kind of science.
I wish it were that simple. But what you eat does have a huge impact on your mental and emotional well-being. Remember how we talked about the gut-brain connection?
Yeah, the whole second brain thing. To be honest, I always thought of my gut as just the place where food goes to, well, you know.
It's so much more than that. Think of it this way. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria.
Trillions. Okay, that's a lot to digest, even for my second brain.
It is. And these little bacteria play a huge role in your overall health. They influence your mood, your focus, your stress levels.
So it's like we've got a whole ecosystem living inside of us.
Exactly. And just like any ecosystem, it needs balance to thrive.
So how do we keep our inner world balanced? Asking for a trillion friends.
Prebiotics and probiotics are key.
Okay, I hear those terms all the time, but honestly, I'm not always sure what they mean. It sounds kind of complicated.
Not at all. Think of prebiotics as the food for the good bacteria in your gut. Things like bananas, garlic, onions, asparagus.
Okay, those are all delicious. And doable. What about probiotics?
Probiotics are the actual good bacteria. You can find them in fermented foods like yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi.
Got it. So feed the good guys and add in reinforcements.
Exactly. A happy gut often means a happier brain, which means a less stressed out you.
This is all so fascinating. It's incredible how interconnected everything is. Our bodies, our minds, our environment, even the trillions of tiny creatures living inside us.
It's mind-blowing, right? And it highlights just how much power we have to influence our own well-being. Now, speaking of power, Dr. Naka also talks about this idea of living a lifetime in a day. Have you heard of that?
I have. It's about intentionally incorporating certain elements into each day to make it feel richer and more meaningful. And that's where I think a lot of people, myself included, might stumble a bit. It's a great concept in theory, but putting it into practice is a whole other thing, right?
It can feel overwhelming at first, but it doesn't have to be. Remember the rule of 2. Small changes, consistently over time.
Okay, that's reassuring. So remind me, what are the elements of living a lifetime in a day?
Let's see, there's childhood, work, solitude, vacation, family, and reflection.
Okay, so 6 key areas to focus on. I'm kind of stuck on the childhood one. Does that mean we're all supposed to be building pillow forts on our lunch breaks? Asking for a friend?
Well, I wouldn't say no to a good pillow fort, but it's more about tapping back into that sense of playfulness and wonder that we often lose as adults.
Ah, that makes sense. It's about approaching life with a sense of curiosity and joy, like when we were kids. What about work? Because for most of us, work is a non-negotiable part of our day, right? So how do we make that more fulfilling?
It's not always about loving your job. It's about finding those pockets of meaning within your work. Maybe it's tackling a new challenge, collaborating with a colleague you admire, or focusing on the positive impact your work has on others.
I love that. So even if we're not in our dream jobs yet, we can still find ways to make our work feel more aligned with our values.
Exactly. And equally important to a fulfilling life, making time for solitude.
That's something I've come to appreciate so much, especially with how demanding and chaotic life can be. Those moments of quiet reflection are essential for my well-being.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be hours on end. Even just a few minutes each day to disconnect from the world and reconnect with yourself can make a world of difference.
It's about giving ourselves permission to simply be, without the pressure to do or achieve anything. Now, I have to ask about vacation, because unless my bank account magically starts overflowing, I don't see myself jet-setting off to a tropical island anytime soon.
That's not what it's about. It's about cultivating that vacation mindset, that sense of relaxation, adventure, and joy in our everyday lives.
So what does that look like practically? Are we talking staycations?
Staycations are great,
Yeah.
but it can be even simpler than that. Maybe it's trying that new restaurant you've been wanting to check out, spending an afternoon exploring a local park, or just curling up with a good book. It's about actively seeking out those experiences that make you feel alive and connected to the present moment.
I love that. It's about finding those little pockets of joy in the midst of our everyday routines.
Exactly. And what's a vacation without our favorite people? That brings us to family, the next element of living a lifetime in a day.
Ah, family. They might drive us crazy sometimes, but they're also our biggest cheerleaders, right?
Exactly. And spending quality time with loved ones is essential for our well-being, even if it's just a quick phone call or a shared meal. It's about nurturing those bonds and appreciating the people who make life richer.
It's about making time for those connections that truly matter. Okay, last but not least, we have reflection.
Reflection is so important. It's about taking the time to process our experiences, learn from our mistakes, and appreciate the good in our lives. Even just a few minutes of journaling or quiet contemplation each day can make a world of difference.
It's about hitting the pause button on the chaos of life and creating space for stillness and introspection. I love that. It seems like these 6 elements of living a lifetime in a day are all interconnected.
They are. It's about creating a life that feels balanced and fulfilling a life that nourishes our bodies, minds, and spirits.
It's about designing a life that we don't need to escape from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what can really get in the way of that? Our devices.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like we have a love-hate relationship with technology these days. On the one hand, it's amazing. We can connect with anyone, anywhere, anytime. But on the other hand, it can be a major source of stress and distraction.
Absolutely. Dr. Knock actually talks about this phenomenon called brain drain.
Brain drain. Okay, now that sounds scary. Tell me more.
It's not as ominous as it sounds. But essentially, even when our phones are silenced or face down, just the mere presence of them can drain our mental resources.
Wait, so even when we're not actively using our phones, they're still hijacking our attention?
In a way, yes. It's like a part of our brain is constantly on high alert, waiting for that next notification, that next message. And all of that mental energy we're expending on being on takes away from our ability to be present and engaged in our actual lives.
It's like our phones are these little black holes sucking up our time, energy, and attention. And then we wonder why we feel so scattered and exhausted at the end of the day.
It's the irony of modern life. We have all these tools designed to make our lives easier, more efficient, and more connected, but often they end up having the opposite effect.
Okay, so what's the antidote? How do we reclaim our focus and attention in a world that's constantly vying for it?
It starts with setting boundaries. And it's about being more intentional with our technology use. Ask yourself, is this serving me right now, or is it just a distraction?
It's about choosing to be present in our lives, rather than constantly plugged into the digital world. Now, speaking of being present, I have to ask about multitasking, because that's something I'm definitely guilty of. Is it really the productivity booster we've been led to believe?
I hate to break it to you, but multitasking is a myth. Our brains just aren't wired to focus on multiple things at once. What we think of as multitasking is actually our brains rapidly switching between tasks.
So we're not actually doing multiple things simultaneously, we're just doing a bunch of things poorly.
Pretty much. And all that task switching comes at a cost: increased errors, reduced productivity, and you guessed it, more stress.
So the next time I catch myself trying to answer emails while simultaneously planning dinner and texting a friend, I need to remind myself that I'm actually doing all three things less effectively and increasing my stress levels in the process. Got it.
Exactly. Embracing the power of monotasking, focusing on one task at a time, can make a world of difference.
Monotasking it is. Now, before we move on, we have to circle back to sleep. It's come up a few times, and for good reason. But for many of us, sleep is often the first thing to go when we're stressed or busy. Any tips for making it more of a priority?
Sleep is essential, not a luxury. And one of the best things you can do is create a consistent sleep schedule and stick to it, even on weekends.
Oh, that's the hard part. My weekends are for sleeping in.
I know, I get it. But our bodies crave routine. Try going to bed and waking up around the same time each day, even if it's just 30 minutes earlier or later on the weekends.
Okay, consistency it is. Any other sleep hygiene tips?
Create a relaxing bedtime routine. Dim the lights, put on some calming music, maybe enjoy a warm bath.
Sign me up for that warm bath.
Right. And just as important as what you do before bed is what you avoid.
Oh no, don't tell me. No more late night scrolling.
You already know. That blue light emitted from your devices can really mess with your sleep.
Okay, blue light officially my sleep nemesis. I knew it wasn't my friend. So it's about creating those boundaries, even when it comes to our technology use, to help signal to our brains and bodies that it's time to wind down.
Exactly. Prioritizing sleep is truly one of the best gifts you can give yourself.
You know, it's interesting how this whole conversation started with stress, but we've really gone way beyond those everyday stressors.
We have. We're talking about what it really means to live a fulfilling life. And honestly, that's what it's all about.
It is. And I think it's something we often forget in our busy lives. We get so caught up in the doing, the achieving, the striving, that we forget to simply be.
It's true. We live in a culture that values productivity above all else.
Yeah.
But what's the point of all that productivity if we're not enjoying the ride?
Exactly. And that's why I love Dr. Naka's approach. It's not about adding more to our already overflowing plates. It's about making conscious choices that support our well-being, even in the midst of the chaos.
It's about finding those little pockets of peace and joy throughout our day, whether it's taking a few deep breaths, connecting with a loved one, or simply savoring a cup of tea in silence.
Those little moments can make a world of difference. They remind us that life isn't just about checking things off a to-do list. It's about truly experiencing and appreciating all that life has to offer.
Exactly. And sometimes it's those small, seemingly insignificant moments that bring us the most joy. The sound of laughter, a warm hug, a moment of awe in nature, those are the things that make life worth living.
They really are. It's about shifting our perspective from what we're lacking to what we already have. And often it's more than we realize.
Absolutely. We get so caught up in wanting more, striving for more, that we forget to appreciate the abundance that already surrounds us.
It's about cultivating a sense of gratitude for the present moment, even amidst the challenges. And, speaking of challenges, I think it's important to acknowledge that life isn't always sunshine and roses.
It's not. There will be ups and downs, twists and turns, unexpected detours. That's just part of the journey.
Exactly. And it's in those moments of adversity that we often discover our greatest strength and resilience. It's when we're pushed to our limits that we realize what we're truly capable of.
We come out stronger on the other side, and often with a newfound appreciation for the things we used to take for granted.
It's about embracing the full spectrum of human experience, the good, the bad, the messy, the beautiful, and trusting that even in the midst of difficulty, there's always something to learn and grow from.
I love that. It's not about avoiding challenges. It's about facing them head on with courage, compassion, and a healthy dose of humor.
Yes, because laughter really is the best medicine, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
about finding those moments of levity even when things feel tough and remembering that we don't have to go through this alone.
Exactly. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
And sometimes just knowing that can make all the difference.
It really can. So as we wrap up this deep dive into stress, well-being, and the power of connection, I want to leave you with this. You are stronger than you think. You are more capable than you know. And you are worthy of a life filled with joy, purpose, and connection.
Beautifully said. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Be kind to yourself along the way. Celebrate your wins, embrace the lessons, and never stop exploring all that life has to offer.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's it for this deep dive, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.